Hello and welcome to another episode of Innovation Coffee brought to you by ARM. My name is Robert Wolf and I'm your host this week and every week for this particular live stream. We go live Thursdays at 5 p.m. UTC, unchanging except the occasional cancellation due to bad weather or holidays, right? So it's usually a lot of fun here. We bring on fun guests and talk about what's going on in the ARM world for developers. Today is a special episode for two reasons. Number one is we're bringing back the most exciting reason here is because we're bringing back our old co-host for Innovation Coffee, which is Alessandro Grande. He moved over to Edge Impulse, a company I'm sure all of you watching are very familiar with. So we're going to get to catch up with Alessandro and find out all the cool stuff he's been up to for the last 6 months or so. I think it's been about 6 months since he left, but we'll catch up with him, find out what he's been up to both on a personal and professional level. We'll hear all about the cool stuff that he's been doing at Edge Impulse. And number two, it's my birthday. It seems that all of y'all here are already aware of that. I thought I was going to make some sort of special announcement, but it's my birthday today. Everyone was asking, hey, don't you want to take the time off and just go relax? It's your birthday. Go take some paid time off and do what you want. I'm like, this is what I want to do. It's my birthday. Why wouldn't I want to just come here and do this live stream and hang out with all you all? So, I'm actually very excited to spend my birthday here with you. And also I'm very excited to spend my birthday with my old co-host, Alessandro Grande. So let's bring him in already. Let's do that. How about we bring Alessandro in? You're going to ad hoc this.
Hey.
Ale, what's up?
It's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. You know what's funny? I thought about it as I was talking is we probably should have done like the intro how we used to do it and just pretended that you were co-hosting. But how does it feel to see that we removed you from the intro splash intro thing, the video?
To be honest, I was actually distracted doing something else, so I didn't notice that. I was trying to get my something to work, but no, I think the weirdest thing is actually I don't have the power to like do anything on StreamYard, right? So I can't control anything, so I'm kind of in your hands completely today.
Well, we're in Rachel's hands together, combined.
Yes.
Rachel is the wizard behind the curtain. So, cool, Alessandro. Yes, it's so awesome to have you back, and thank you for taking the time to join us. I know we have some people who watch this show almost on a weekly basis, and they've been following us since we did our pilot, even before that, since we started on your personal YouTube channel, and so I can almost guarantee that they are interested to know how you have been, what you've been up to. Can you just take a minute or two and just tell us from when you left ARM to where you are now, like how you are on a personal level? Did you move? Did you have any fun stuff happen in your life?
Yeah, it's been, you were saying 6 months. I think it's it's been about 7-8 months, 7-8 months, wow. I think now. But yeah, time has really gone fast. And I've moved to Edge Impulse, and it's been interesting. I've been learning a lot. When you move to a new place, a new company, a new job, it's always a lot of learning. In the meantime, I've also moved back to Italy. I'm actually in between Italy and the UK right now, but right now I'm in Italy, and that's also exciting. I get to be in a different country. I've been in England for eight years, and I'm now half in Italy, so at least half. So that's great. And across the board, I think it's interesting to see things from a different perspective, right? And I'm learning a lot, and I'm more involved with the whole TinyML Foundation, and a lot of cool stuff is happening there. We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, I don't want to dive into too much stuff. But I think overall, it's just a different point of view, right? I think I've got a lot of great experience being in ARM. I had a lot of great experiences being in ARM, and now I'm just kind of enriching my view by looking at things from this other perspective, right? And things are there's a lot of interesting things, and ARM plays a huge role, right? Like I think we were just on another live stream where we had a great conversation about hardware, and there was Eben and Pete Warden and Jan and VJ talking about effectively how embedded ML is possible on all ARM processors, right? And there was an interesting conversation around CMSSN and what that has enabled across the board, right? So ARM is kind of the foundations of all of what we're doing at Edge Impulse, for example, right? So it's great.
Yeah, so you say, that's awesome. Thank you for updating us. And you're in Italy right now. It's funny because us Americans, like, we go online and we try planning our trips to Rome, and you just casually walk past the Colosseum on your way to get your basic cup of coffee in the morning or something. And I'm just like, gosh, some people spend their whole lives maybe getting to see that kind of history once in their life, and you just kind of it's just nothing for you, huh? It's just there.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not that close to the Colosseum. I wish I was, but yeah, I mean, it is impressive. Like, I don't know if you've been to Rome before.
I haven't.
You haven't? Okay.
Oh.
It's impressive. I mean, you get a lot of, and apologies for the noise. If you hear noise, it's not me. There's someone beside, next door kind of making some noise. But yeah, no, I was saying it's impressive. When you go to Rome, you see all this amazing stuff happening. All these amazing, cool old things everywhere, right? And it's sometimes even myself, I don't actually know what some of the ruins are, right? Like, there's so many ruins everywhere. It's really, really fascinating to see all these different places and try to understand what they were one time, once upon a time. But yeah, no, you kind of get used to it a little bit when you live here, because there is so much. But it's exciting. I mean, one thing I want to mention is, whenever someone comes and visits me, I always experience the ruins and the history from a different perspective, because I get to to explain to them what it was. I have to kind of think about it myself, and then I'm like, wow, I never realized how much stuff there is around. But with that said, you should come to Rome.
Yeah, my wife and I, we're gonna try going to Rome next year.
Next week.
I got
you haven't told me.
I did the no shave November thing, and gosh, this thing is bugging me so much now. I don't let my beard go out this long. I'm getting mustache hair in my mouth. Anyways, that's really cool. Another one. So I was thinking about going out there, right? And what you said is you experience things from a different perspective. When I have people visit San Diego, kind of the same thing happens, right? We have not really history, I would call it, but I get to go to some of the amusement parks and get to go visit some of the older areas of town. And as I'm showing them these places, I get to relive them myself. And it's kind of cool in that way. But I do remember my first time visiting Europe. It was Budapest. I think I might have told you this story, but the first building we walked into, we're like, oh, let's go explore. We walk into this church, and on the wall, built in 1250. So it was built before the U.S. was even discovered by Columbus. It was built hundreds of years before it was even discovered. And that's crazy. So yeah, there's so much history over in Europe, and that's awesome. So let's talk about Edge Impulse now, Alessandro. Now that you've caught us up on your life story, what are you doing at Edge Impulse? Fill us in on your position. How similar is it to what you were doing at ARM? And what kind of new stuff are you learning, et cetera, et cetera?
Good question. I mean, it's actually a lot of questions all in one, but I'll try to kind of start from the basics. So at Edge Impulse, I'm director of technology, and what that actually means is that I'm kind of the person that is the bridge between the marketing and business side and the actual development, right? So we're a small company, about 35 people now, I believe. We're growing fast, so that we get new people every time, but new people every day. But effectively, I'm kind of the only person that bridges the two worlds. So I'm trying my best to really understand what the engineering folks are building, and kind of convert that into something that could be useful and could be utilized by everyone out there, right? So in my kind of day role, I get to talk to developers, obviously, and try to understand how they are using Edge Impulse and what they're looking for, and more broadly, actually, not just Edge Impulse, right? I think there is we talk Edge Impulse is a tool, for the ones of you that don't know. It's a tool for enabling developers to build machine learning pipelines effectively that can be deployed on embedded devices. And the really cool thing is that this is a massive opportunity for everyone, right? Like, it is possible now to run workloads on really constrained devices. And, it was something that wasn't possible 2-3 years ago, right? And so I think it's a massive opportunity for everyone. And there's a lot of people looking at this, a lot of companies, a lot of enterprises, a lot of individual developers looking at this and really thinking about, what it could mean for their business, what it could mean for their products, right? And what is really cool is that in a lot of cases, these people haven't done machine learning before, right? They're not capable of doing data science, and they're not, they don't really understand how to develop, how to like train a model, and what it takes to actually like kind of do it optimally so they can run on an embedded device, right? So across the board, I think I'm really working closely with the TinyML Foundation, and we're really kind of looking at how do we educate more developers to understand the potential that they have, the new potential that they have with this technology, but also how can they actually use it in practice, right? So I think I see my role kind of in Edge Impulse as one part of the story, but there's also like the wider part, and it's kind of like I almost see it as an ecosystem problem, right? That we're trying to solve together with ARM, with the TinyML Foundation, and all the partners that participate in the foundation. And it's all about really kind of enabling everyone to use machine learning in embedded. And in my role at Edge Impulse, what I do is effectively kind of do that for Edge Impulse, right? So it's a subset of like the wider call that I have, let's say.
Is it much more complex than what you were doing at ARM with just the developer advocacy and stuff? I mean, like, I feel like at ARM, our role here is to speak with the developers in the community, hang out and collaborate with and enable the developers in the community. It sounds like you have a much more broader reach. You're working with partner organizations and the people who are making the devices, even at that, like partner companies and actually developing the tech, and then bridging the gaps. So you're kind of doing a lot more.
Yeah, I think it's slightly different in the sense that, it's more complex in some respects, but more simple in others, right? Like, we only have one product. Edge Impulse is one product, right? So compared to like ARM, where, obviously there's a wide variety of things happening. Yes. And it's a big company, and there's, a lot of different developments happening, and there's always new stuff coming out all the time with Edge Impulse also, but it's all like limited to that one product, right? So the vision, the idea, the objective that we have as a company is one, right? It's really to enable all developers to do machine learning in an easier way, right? And in that sense, it's simpler because the story that we have to tell and the work that we do is all driven by that one vision, right? And in that sense, it's simpler when it comes to like understanding what to do, right? Because it's all about like achieving that goal, right? And but in other respects is obviously different because I'm at Edge Impulse. I'm talking directly to customers using Edge Impulse, and I'm trying to understand like really what they're looking for, how we can enable them to succeed in what they do, right? And we have a lot of different customers that are doing completely different things, and so like every time you have to like kind of think about the different use case and the different problems that a customer might have. And this is something I didn't used to do at ARM. Not that ARM doesn't do it, but it wasn't my role in ARM. To talk to customers. So that's interesting, right? Like you see, you kind of get your hands dirty and you see what's working, what's not working, and what can be done in a better way, and then kind of feed all that back to the engineering team, the awesome engineering team that we have that builds the product, right, and improves it and makes it better for everyone. And yeah, I think in that sense, so there is that kind of simplicity, more simple approach to the a more simple vision because it's one product. On the other hand, there is more complexity because I get to talk to different people or a more diverse audience than I used to at ARM.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to touch on there's one thing that you mentioned here before we dive into, maybe you could give us a few updates, like things that are going on in the Edge Impulse world. I know that you guys really, there's no pun intended here, but like you guys really do have your finger on the pulse here, right? I mean, I feel that for a small company, you guys are active, like very active, always pushing cool stuff out, doing AMAs. I think that you were going to do an AMA this morning, but I stole you from it, or you were able to move the time. You're always doing stuff. So I am interested in hearing this, but you did touch on one thing, and I'd like to just kind of conversate on it just a little more before we dive into that. You talked about kind of what the technology that developers have at their fingertips now compared to what they had about 5, even 10 years ago, or 10, even 5 years ago, where we're able to actually put AI models, tiny ML, these complex algorithms on small devices and have these small devices, be still power efficient, right? Through using ARM cores. Now, I mean, tell me about your thoughts here. Like, I mean, where we are now, how are we where we need to be? Do we need to be any further when it comes to the hardware to get more stuff going? I mean, how is Edge Impulse working with what you have here in the ARM ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. I think the hardware is always advancing. I mean, there's new things coming out all the time. Obviously there's the new U55 M55 that's come out from ARM, and we're already working with partners. We've got a partner in together, Aleph Semiconductors, that has released one of the first silicon boards with that, with the combination of the M55 and U55. And that opens up a whole new load of possibilities, right? Because it does really kind of do what a Cortex-M used to do, but in a much more effective, efficient way. And it really unlocks like a lot of new class of applications, right? I kind of see like the spectrum of applications going from like sensor, vibration sensors, for example, that you're trying to use to do anomaly detection, to keyword spotting using like microphones, all the way to like object detection. And usually like we're not really capable of doing object detection on Cortex-M type class devices, right? And the reason for that is that usually object detection models are very complex and they've been built for kind of really capable devices. And to this day, it's not really something that has been ever kind of changed when it comes to doing it on embedded, right? Now, I haven't tried. I actually haven't tried it on an Aleph board, an Aleph chipset yet. So I'm not sure exactly how well it would run on that. But stay tuned, because we're going to do it soon. But before that, I think what's interesting here is that you asked about the hardware, right? So I think the hardware is moving very fast. Like it's a lot of things are happening, and there's a lot of movement. And as I mentioned, like the U55 M55 is a new IP from ARM that has really unlocked a whole load of possibilities. But on the software end, though, there hasn't been a lot of development, right, when it comes to embedded. A lot of the kind of papers you read in academia, a lot of the work that has been going on to the kind of data science world has all been about like building bigger, more complex algorithms or models. Because effectively, we're all passionate about. I kind of put myself in this, not that I'm data science at all, but I come from a physics background, right? And I, in that sense, I understand what data scientists are trying to do. They're trying to like understand how nature works, right? And one of the coolest things in nature is the human brain, right? So people are trying to replicate and understand the human brain, and they're trying to like really kind of do something that's similar to human brain using a model that's effectively the neural network model, right? And so there is a huge research in that respect, but there hasn't been a lot of research in saying, okay, scrap the human brain for a second. What could we do if we wanted to like condense, this model and make it fit on a smaller, more constrained device? And the reason why I'm saying this is that there has been recent developments that we've seen that have really revolutionized this space, right? And one thing that we announced, for example, at our conference in September was this new object detection model. And effectively, it does allow you to do object detection on a Cortex-M, but it's not because the Cortex-M is more powerful, but it's just because the team in Edge Impulse, in this case, has really rethought about the architecture of the model and has enabled that advancement, right? And it's not just Edge Impulse, right? Harvard is doing a lot of work. Google is doing a lot of work in this respect. So there are a lot of people kind of looking at this, but it is a new field, and there hasn't been a lot of work until now, right? So I think just to kind of close, I think the interesting thing is that the hardware is moving really fast, but the software hasn't really moved that fast yet. And I think we're now seeing the acceleration in the software, and hopefully the two things together.
I mean, that in a lot of cases you end up with this situation when it comes to like PCs and gaming as well, right? Like, you end up with these graphics cards that are built for games that won't be coming out for the next 3 to 5 years and stuff. ARM, there you go. Yeah, no. So I got ARM everywhere. I got ARM back over here, ARM on the coffee cups behind me. But yeah, so one thing, it's kind of got me a little bitter here. Maybe spoiler alert. Have you seen that new show Foundation? Or heard of that show? It's based on the Isaac Asimov.
I haven't seen it though.
Okay, so I won't spoil it too much, but gosh, has it gotten me bitter? Like, I wish I was born 10 or 20,000 years from now, because humans just have so much potential here, and the way that this show lays it out, you're looking at 20,000 years in the future from where we are now. We're like an interplanetary species. We've literally conquered an entire galaxy. We're inhabiting thousands of planets. We've split off. Our technology has enabled us to bend space and time and travel from one part of the galaxy to another. Just crazy stuff. And here we are talking about running object detection on an embedded device, which is really cool. But gosh, man, I wish we had that foundation tech, That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Nanobots. These are little bots you put into your blood and they like heal you. That's AI to the next level right there. That's the kind of stuff we need.
Well, you see, what's interesting, I agree. I think that's kind of where we're going. Like, that's the future, right? But I think to enable that, you really have to like maximize the processing at each stage, right? So to me, it's yes about enabling those tiny bots, do some work, but then it's about enabling like maybe the bigger bot, kind of do some more work on top of like what the tiny bot has done, and so on, right? Like, and you could get to a place where you have like different, almost a stratification of like intelligence happening, right? Where you've got like intelligence or in things being processed at different stages, and I think that's how you like get to solving really interesting problems, right? Because effectively, one of the things that is challenging is shipping data around, right? Like, it's super costly and it's ineffective, right? If you can process some of that data when it makes sense, right away while you're collecting the data, and ship just the result, that could enable the next thing to like maybe combine a bunch of results, right? And kind of think about like how can it like understand the world around it better, right? Than just the little tiny bot, right? So I think the tiny bot can do a lot, but then on its own, I don't think it can really kind of the tiny bot will not become an intelligent being per se, right? Like, it will just be enabled to do, like, it will enable or
it's performing a task.
Exactly. It will do a task very well, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing about embedded ML, across the board, is that we're not trying to like get these things to like be intelligent, right? We're trying to get them to be doing one thing really well, right? And that's possible. That's what's happening already, right? I think that's the kind of that's the separation between embedded ML and somehow like the AI and artificial intelligence. That's where the separation is, right? The tiny bots are like a very simple system that could potentially like send upstream some data or some results that then can maybe be fed into a more intelligent machinery, right?
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Again, it just got me kind of like a little bitter You know, like where you think like, ah, dang, man, this tech is so cool. I wish that I was born 10,000 years from now. I don't know if anyone else ever thinks that. Like, you know, I know my wife, she wishes she was like, you know, in her early 20s in the 80s. Like she's in 80s. She wants to be in the 80s. I'm like, nah, screw that. Send me back to 2009 so that I could literally scoop up I don't know, a couple million Bitcoin, or send me forward about 10,000, 20,000 years. And, you know, assuming that civilization has advanced and has become similar to what's on the foundation. Those are my two options. Yeah.
But, you know, I think to that, in that respect, though, I think we're at an interesting point in time, right? Like, I think we're getting to the point where machine learning is becoming more and more capable. And not just that, but we're able to use it in clever ways, right? So we're able to do like some interesting things with machine learning. And what is missing, though, is a really important piece. And I think and I think what's missing is humanity, right? I think we have to like make sure that these machine learning algorithms, these models, what we're kind of enabling and what we're shipping are things that don't have strong biases, right? I think there is all that, you know, there's all that conversation happening about like ethical AI and what that means, right? But I think, you know, to your point, I think I always try to like, you know me, I try to be very optimistic all the time, and to me, it's interesting that we are at this point in our kind of existence, in human existence, because we have an opportunity to like really make a difference, and perhaps we have the opportunity to like get the world to move towards that kind of advanced civilization.
We are the foundation. Right? We are building the foundation. Yeah, no, exactly. You know, it's funny, you know, talking about robotics and bringing humanity into the mix, back to Isaac Asimov, like, you know, he wrote out these 3 laws of robotics. I don't know if you've heard of them, but I took some robotics classes in university, and university professors actually still utilize these 3 laws of robotics when looking at kind of the morality in the sense of creating robots. So you can go, I'm not going to read them off, but you know, anyone watching can go look up Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. They're very interesting. And basically it takes into account the humanity, right? Like don't harm a human through any action. And then make sure you're always protecting humans, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. Way to bring us back to the topic, Alessandro. I'm straying off into science fiction and you're keeping us grounded here. So that's good. I do have some stuff here that some topics, some key topics that we can talk about. So one is, what about TinyML for good? So you've brought this up in the past, TinyML for good. Let's talk about that. Give us kind of like the overhead here. TinyML for good. What is it? What are you doing with it?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to my previous point, right? Like I think we've got an opportunity to really kind of enable people to solve problems in a clever way, but also in a sustainable and ethical way, right? So I think the technology that we're building can really enable people in developing countries, for example, solve their problems, right? I think in a lot of cases, we, you know, together, I mean, as in like Edge Impulse is building the software, ARM is building the hardware, or the IP that goes into most of the hardware out there, and effectively, all, you know, both things are really accessible, right? Like there is a lot of hardware. You know, there's obviously all the microcontroller partners that you have, and you know, there is things like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis, and you know, all things are super accessible. And on the other hand, like there is software that now is also easy to build and easy to access with Edge Impulse. And effectively, like those two things together really can enable people to solve problems, right? And I think one of the interesting things that we are doing, and this is now is thinking about my involvement with the TinyML for Good committee and the foundation, is really try and kind of bridge the gap between people that have problems that don't know anything about technology and people that know about technology and, you know, are maybe experts in TinyML, but have no idea of what problems people are having in another part of the world, right? And I think, you know, in my experience, I've talked to people that have, you know, that have like big problems sometimes. And when you talk to them, usually they come to you with like this, you know, massive problem. You know, for example, you know, I'll cite one problem that obviously we're aware that it is a problem in some developing countries, and that's like the checking whether water is drinkable or not, right? And if you kind of present that problem, if you have that problem and you try to present that problem to someone that is working in the technology world, there is a mismatch, right? Because the problem is huge, right? And to some extent, how can TinyML solve that? Well, I don't know, right? Because I don't know how you're measuring. If you have a way of measuring the water quality, I don't know if you are deploying things in the field. I don't know if you've got if you've got wells, if you've got lakes, if you've got rivers. Like, I actually don't know what the real problem is, right? So to some extent, what I'm passionate about is getting people that have those problems, those real problems. So like someone that has a well in their backyard that is trying to understand whether that well has the water in that well is drinkable or not, in front of someone that has the technology and is able to like really talk to them about, okay, so what are you trying to deploy, right? Like what is the problem? What are you trying to deploy? And what can be done differently, perhaps, right? And in a lot of cases, that really works, because then you kind of really see, problems that are trying to be solved with technology, and people, experts in technology that can actually bring a lot of value to the people in the fields, right? In the field. And I think that's really interesting. And I think that's what we're trying to do with TinyML for Good. We're trying to bridge the gap between, domain experts, or I should say people that have real problems in the real world with people that have solutions, right? And really kind of get them to talk to each other in a different format, in a different way.
And water problems are huge. These things happen even in, I hate using the term, but like even in the first world, right? Like in countries like the US, like you still have issues where old pipes go unchecked, or the water coming through your faucet has traveled down so many other cities that by the time it gets to you, the total dissolved solids in there are actually bad types of solids. And so like, you have situations like that, whereas you look at other places of the world and they're worried about bacterial infections, things that are bacteria that could cause infections or massive bad things to your body. So like the problems are different in different areas of the world, but this problem is still echoing across the entire world anyways, right? And that's just one problem, is water. There are tons more out there. Cool. So yeah, I mean, looking at open embedded for solutions to these types of kind of everyday problems that people are facing around the world is definitely good. So what kind of challenges are you seeing when it comes to using this tech? So like when developers or your partners or the people you're working with, when they're saying like, okay, I have this problem, I'm trying to get to this solution for this problem. What types of problems are they facing when they're developing these things out? What are they coming to you with and saying like, Alessandro, shoot, I got stuck here. This is a big problem. I need help over this hurdle.
Yeah, no, great question. If I may, I just wanted to just share the TinyML for Good workshop that we just did. So the resources are here, and just so that people watching can, if they haven't watched it yet, they can go watch some of the amazing talks that we had from folks during that workshop. So just wanted to share that as it was relevant to the previous question. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, to your question, to your point. So what challenges people are having, right? I think, it's interesting because there is a lot of work being done on kind of optimizing, and I kind of mentioned this initially as well, but there's a lot of work being done on optimizing the hardware, and there's a lot of work being done in optimizing like some of the libraries, and that's all amazing, right? Like that needs to be there, right? And in some ways, like that's the foundations, right? And as I said before, ARM is a big player here, actually. One of the biggest, right, when it comes to like really building the foundations well. On top of that, though, when it comes to like really developing models that can run on devices in the field, what a lot of people struggle with is actually not just getting the data, the data that they need to develop those models, but also like understanding how the model is performing. Right, one of the challenges that you have when developing machine learning models is that usually initially, like a lot of people, started doing all these demos, and those are great because they can get people started really quickly. But then the next challenge is, okay, how do I modify that demo to run with my own data, right? Because now I want to deploy this in my factory. I want to deploy this in my water well. I want to deploy this in my whatever it is, right? And that's one challenge. So how do I get the data, and how do I modify the project or the model now to include my data, right? And then once you solve that, and that's already a big hurdle. Once you solve that, though, there is still another problem, right? And that is, okay, now I've got this model that's optimized for my own data. But now, how do I know if this model is going to perform well in the real world, in my real world scenario, right? And one of the challenges that we see there is that established companies, they know how to do this, right? What they do is they make a lot of these like kind of demo devices. They put the software on top of it, and then what they do is they put it in the place where it's supposed to run for days, right? Usually like 24 or 48 hours, and they capture everything that happens from on the device and everything that happens in the surrounding, right? So imagine it's a sound device, right? Something that's trying to recognize some sound or a vibration or whatever it might be, right? Like let's take the vibration example. Actually, you're putting a vibration, an anomaly detection on a device, on a factory machinery, and you're trying to see how it performs well, right? What could happen is that, for example, you might have a train that passes by your factory that you didn't think that would pass by your factory and would make that, would make the machine vibrate, and you might capture that, and maybe your device triggers, right? And it says, oh, I found an anomaly, right? But actually, it's not really an anomaly of the machine, right? So the only way to gather that, like to understand that, is really to like put it in the field, capture that data, and try to see like how it correlates to what's happening around you, right? What we're doing with Edge Impulse is kind of short-circuiting that cycle, and the way to do that is to bring those 24-hour, 48-hour data points into Edge Impulse. So what you're able to do with the application testing is actually run those tests on the tool itself, right? So you don't have to deploy to the device in the field. What you can do is just put a microphone in the field or a vibration sensor in the field that's capturing the data, and then stream that to the platform. Use that to test your algorithms, right? So that really kind of speeds up the development, because effectively, you don't have to debug your embedded device anymore, right? All you have to do is really debug the model, right? So you're kind of, as when it comes to debugging, the best practice is always to like kind of bound the problems and like try to eliminate, kind of things, effects that might not be controllable. So, effectively that's what we're doing, right? So I think that's really a big challenge, and we've tried to find a solution to that, and I'm excited that this solution is going live in a month or so, actually.
Very nice. We'll have to make sure we update that, or that we share those updates on our channels. It reminds me of a story, actually. I think it was back in the early 90s. A company came out called Caltrack. And it was this little device that you wear on your belt. Okay. And it was intended to track calories, just like, we wear our watches now, right? But technology has substantially improved since then. The problem with this particular calorie tracker is that it logged calories when you were sitting in the car driving. It logged calories when you were, sitting on your desk chair, right? Like as you're moving around and stuff. It wasn't fine-tuned enough. The technology wasn't quite there, and it wasn't programmed properly to provide accurate data to the users. And so it went belly up, right? Like taking into account, again, these external factors like the train driving by when you're trying to measure this machinery. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. It reminded me of that. I remember my dad had one. And so, it just reminded me of that story. Very cool. So Alessandro, I think you mentioned you have a demo. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about, we might as well move on to this demo. We're coming up. We have about 15 minutes left. So we knock this out.
I mean, I'm gonna go through this quickly. Most people have probably seen it already, or I've seen Edge Impulse already, so I'm not going to go through all the details. But I wanted to show, I've got my Portenta here. Let's see if I can.
That's an Arduino Portenta for those.
Arduino Portenta, yes, and it's got the vision shield on top of it. And this is, it's the let's see. There we go. Wrong way up. We've released the official support for the Arduino Portenta today. So, I think it's a good opportunity to mention this. And let me just share my screen. We haven't tried this before, so let's hope it works. Let me just see.
Yeah, while you do that, Hybotics, who has since become one of our regulars here, I want to try. He says, I want to try implementing TinyML on the Pimoroni Pico Lipo 16 megabyte board. I have 2 of these now. Hybonics, I think I messaged you. If you end up, you do robotic stuff, and if you ever want to join us on the show here, let me know. If you do end up implementing something like that or doing some cool stuff, reach out to me and we get you a spot on the show. I'd love to see the cool stuff you're building.
Yeah, and I mean, we just had an AMA. You said before, like we had an AMA with Eben. So go check out the Edge Impulse YouTube video, the Edge Impulse YouTube channel. There was just an AMA with Eben talking about how the Pico is really a great board or a great chip, even the RP2040 for doing TinyML. So go check that out because there's some interesting stuff there. And yeah, you could totally do it on the Pimoroni as well. It's the same chip, so why not? He was actually talking about, for the ARM folks, he was talking about how well ARM has done their work when it comes to like optimizing not just the CMSIS and N libraries for the big cores, the bigger kind of Cortex M7 and so on that have like DSP instructions, but also for the Cortex M0s. So it was quite interesting. So go check that out. But let me share my screen here. Okay, so I'm sharing it now. So what I'm going to share is effectively, so this is a project. It's a person detection project, and it's done using again the Arduino Portenta. What you're seeing here is Edge Impulse's dashboard, and effectively, this is all online. So it's hi Robert. It's a platform that runs in the cloud, Edge Impulse, and you can do all this. I mean, it's free, so you can access and do it yourself. But effectively, what I wanted to show you today was how we enable person detection, for example, or any kind of image classification on Edge Impulse. So the first thing you want to do is really I'm having some issues with my Wi-Fi today and my connection, so it might be a bit slow with also the live stream going on. But I wanted to show you effectively, I've got my Arduino Portenta connected. You can see here it's green, so it means that it's connected. And I can show you also that I've got this is my terminal where I'm running my daemon connected to the Portenta. I'll show you that in a second. But effectively, so that's the first step. You want to connect a board, and that allows you to collect data, right? So the first thing I mentioned before is it's really important to collect your own data, like that data that makes sense, right? So you can see here, this is me, and you can see, let's see if I can get Robert in here as well. Oh, it's not updating. Is it updating? It moved for a second.
Like it looks like it stopped updating. Yeah.
It froze that.
But we saw it move for a second.
Yeah,
it moved. You can refresh. It moved. That.
I think. Yeah, no, it should refresh, but it's just that I'm having some issues with my connection. So there you go. It's going on. It's going on and off, and with this stream, it's struggling a little bit.
Yeah,
but anyways,
makes sense.
I've got, so here you can see the data. So this is me. I've collected some data earlier, and you can see there is some person and some non-person, right? So we've got about 1,400 items, and there is 699 of non-person and 700 of person, right? And you could see here the train and test split that we've done as well. And you can collect more data here. You can select the board that is not really letting me select right now, but oh, there we go. So you can select the board and collect more data. I'm not going to do it now because it's going to take too much time to train because I wanted to like really kind of do this live. So so you can see here, that the board is now connected, you could collect more data and build your own data set. And then you go here and you create the impulse. And effectively what you're doing here is using some pre-built blocks that can be used to pre-process the data. In this case, you're using image here. And all this is doing is bringing the image from the Portenta and making it to a grayscale image, and then flattening it into a buffer that can be used by the transfer learning model here. So then, as I mentioned here, there is a transfer learning model. We'll go in a bit more detail in a second, but effectively, you're building your pipeline here, right? And you're doing this with no code. So you don't have to know anything about coding, but you don't have to know anything about machine learning either, right? The next step is the kind of pre-processing step. And as I mentioned, this is very simple. All it's doing is really this RGB to grayscale conversion. So that's very straightforward. And then there's this transfer learning model where we're using a mobile net, and you can use different models. We've trained a bunch of models that work. And what's really interesting here is actually the ability to kind of look at your data set, right? And really look at how is my data performing, my data set or the data I've collected, how is it working with the model, right? So how's the model performing with this data? So you can see here all these different points that are all the data points that we've collected. And you can also see here how it's performing across the data set, right? So this is giving you an idea of accuracy. I mean, obviously this is not super accurate because the number of samples are not that great. Usually when you collect something for a real world use case, you would probably collect something in the thousands, tens of thousands. But with some work, this can be optimized. Next step is something that I wanted to show you quickly here. Okay, my job failed because I think I've stopped it earlier, but I'll show you this in a second. So let's skip this. Actually, well, let me talk about this for a second, and then I'll show you another example in a second. But effectively, this is the Eon Tuner is a tool that allows you to find the best optimal configuration of your DSP feature extraction and your ML model, and really kind of find the optimal set of features or parameters for the feature extraction, but also the best hyperparameters for the model, and tune those two things together. But then the important thing here is that I wanted to show you is that actually this really works on this is live classification that we're doing here. So I can show you this working. And this is a quick way of seeing how the model is performing in a real case with the data coming directly from the camera.
So it's taking a picture of you live, and then it's measuring it against the data that you've already collected, all those samples, and it's going to tell you if it's a person or not a person.
Exactly.
So it's 91% sure that it's a person.
Exactly. And you see the result here, and it shows you again. It shows you see where it falls within this cluster, right? And if for example this fell completely outside the cluster, you would know that there was something wrong with the data, right? So either you've never collected a similar data point before, or you mislabeled some of the data that you have. So you can really kind of dig into like what is causing your problems with your model, right? And then the last thing here is the last step really is you can deploy your library, the output of this work. You can deploy it as a C++ library, as an Arduino library, but also you can now deploy it from today as an Arduino Portenta H7 firmware, right? So if you do that, it will actually automatically work on the Arduino Portenta out of the box, right?
Wait, did you just say as of today?
As of today, yes.
Oh shoot! Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta look into the camera. You know the drill, Alessandro. You gotta look into the camera and say, "You saw it here first."
Saw it here first. But yeah, no, it was cool because I mean, we talked about this earlier. Like it has been released today. I mean, as I said, like you could have done it before because you can use an Arduino library, but now it works out of the box, right? Like you don't have to do anything extra other than just kind of pulling up your Arduino IDE and using it. I'll actually link, if you give me a second, I'll link, where is it? Here. So here is the blog post. One second. So I'm going to link it in the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
You've done it already, I think. Perfect. Okay. So yeah. So basically, you can do this on your Arduino Portenta from today, and you can do anything, right? Like I've shown you images, but you can do. It has a lot of sensors, so you can do like temperature, you can do vibration, you can do things with sound. So it really like enables you to do a lot of different use cases, right? And the cool thing about this is that, as I showed you, like it doesn't really require any coding. But Robert, you were going to say something, so I'll let you talk, and then I was going to show you one more thing.
I was just going to say that the Edge Impulse dashboard. I mean, the first time I saw it, I think was when Daniel brought it in, like when you were still here, 1.5 years ago, like in one of the early days when he brought it in and showed it to us. And gosh, it's so robust looking at it now. Like it actually, everything has a really nice flow to it. Now, granted, it's always kind of been really nice, but I've noticed things just getting nicer and nicer over the years. So it's, the dashboard is just awesome. Very straightforward, very, very, very user-friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the other cool thing is that all the stuff that you've seen today, it's all also, it's all kind of constructed through APIs, right? So effectively, you can run any of these things that you saw today through open APIs that actually, can allow you to like hook up the stuff in like your own flows, right? So you don't have to use the IDE or the kind of the environment that you saw today. You can run this from a CLI, in your own flows. So that's really empowering, right? Because it doesn't, this is kind of the simple version, right? But there is a lot of advanced features that I haven't showed you today. But let me just pull up again. I was looking for the right project, but this is a project. Let me just double check recognize sounds from audio. And we've got different types of data here. And I believe, this is trying to recognize whether there is, an open faucet or not, right? So it's noise versus faucet. And what I wanted to show you here that I didn't get to show you earlier is this really cool feature called Eon, or cool tool called Eon Tuner. And what this does is effectively it shows you, as I mentioned before, like all the different combinations of feature extraction and neural network processing, and really kind of tell you, okay, these are given your constraints. So given your Cortex M7 that you're running on, given your time per inference that you want to hit, and the target RAM and ROM that you have, you can now like look at the real results. Because what's really cool is that we have effectively, we have digital twins of all the boards that we're supporting in our cloud that we can kind of run our models against, right? So what these results that you're seeing are actually real results that, very, well, I should say, very close to what you would get on the real hardware, right? So it can give you a real sense of what is the best combination of blocks that I should run on my board in order to like achieve what I want to achieve, right? So so you can see here the different, there's a bunch of like different combinations that it finds, and it really kind of gives you the tool to pick. You can pick the right model that you want and use that in your project, right? So again, it's what Edge Impulse is at the end of the day. It's an engineering tool for you to like kind of build your own stuff, right? And in that sense, it's very flexible.
Very nice. I was gonna be like, you're an engineering tool. No. Just kidding. No, that's really cool. I mean, we always love talking about Edge Impulse here at ARM, right? I mean, there's just so much cool stuff that you guys are doing over there. And I mean, as I watch it evolve over the time that I've been following Edge Impulse, I mean, I think, at least it's been a couple of years now since I've been started following it. And gosh, I mean, like I said, you guys are just constantly innovating, constantly pushing out cool new stuff, constantly announcing new enablement. And I always look forward to hearing about what's happening around Edge Impulse. And I have the notifications set for Edge Impulse and of course you on Twitter, so that I know every time something new is happening, which is very often.
I was going to say one thing though on that, because that's a really important. I mean, I think this is really important, and I think we both see the world in through the same lenses. I think what's really key is not so much what Edge Impulse does, right? It's what Edge Impulse and the ecosystem does together, right? I think in the same way that we've always talked about, like really the kind of developer ecosystem, right? Like I think what I like to see myself as is someone working for a company that's also working with other people, across the different companies, right? I don't like to see myself as like someone that just works for a specific company. I like to see myself as someone that is enabling a new way of doing, of developing software. And effectively, I'm not doing it by myself. We're not doing it by ourselves. We're doing it with ARM. We're doing it with a bunch of other partners. And it's all through the partnerships that we're kind of, we're really kind of accelerating this enablement and this democratization of HTML, like together, right? There's no one player that can do it by themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to do it again. I always quote the Isaac Newton freaking quote, but totally. It's very nice to see collaboration in this ecosystem. It's necessary. I mean, exactly. Even like, when it comes to anything, when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to innovation, when it comes to anything, collaboration is key. Human beings, companies, corporations, all working together for a common goal. So I think that's very important. Now, we have like 1 minute left, Alessandro. I want to give you a shameless plug, but before I do that, I want to make one comment here. One of our community members who has been with us for a long time, he hosts meetups every now and then through. Well, this is a particular show and tell event, but it's called All Hands Active. I hope I'm quoting this right, but he goes through the All Hands Active meetup space. I Shot JR. I don't have the link to that one. I tried finding it on Twitter. But there's maybe this is it right here. So December 2nd, I found it. So I'm gonna share this real quick in the chat. This is the link I'm talking about. Sorry, Alessandro, for commandeering here. Meet up tonight. So tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think midnight UTC time. So that's the link right there. I just posted it. Go check it out. It's really cool because they'll be joined by Ubi DeFeo from Arduino and David Tischler, one of our ARM innovators, will be there as well, doing some show and tell, and Helen Lee from Crowd Supply. Sorry. So there's going to be some interesting speakers there showing and telling some stuff. So don't forget to miss that. Now, Alessandro, let's close.
Actually, let me just do one thing before. Let me just show you one thing before we close.
No, you still get shameless plug too.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that in a second. But first, the most important thing here. 2 years ago, let's see if this comes up. 2 years ago, we were all together. I mean, you can go on Twitter and see this picture.
2 years ago today.
2 years ago today, we were at Robert's birthday together in Mountain View, and actually. Where's I Shot JR? He's in the picture, but I can't see him here. Oh yeah, I see his hat. It's a bit.
The black hat on the right side.
Yeah. So he was there with us, and there's a bunch of people. There's Sandeep there in the first.
Surprisingly enough, Sandeep is there, and now Sandeep works for ARM.
Is that Rachel in the background?
I don't know if Rachel was there. I think that's Grace.
Oh yeah, it's Grace. Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, big happy birthday to my friend Robert here. I'm excited, that I got to share this today's show with you. It's a pleasure, and really happy birthday. I mean, I hope you take the rest of the day off now that you've done the one thing that you wanted to do.
I think I am going to take most of the day off. I'm looking here. I have one meeting So I have one more meeting in a half an hour, and then I'll be taking most likely at least the rest of the day off. I might, do emails, but yeah. So sorry, Arm, I'm taking the rest of the day off. I'll submit it. But yeah,
made it public.
yeah. Alessandro, I mean, geez, gosh,
But,
it's a pleasure. Always happy to have you here, man. You're welcome anytime.
yeah, it's been awesome, and yeah, I mean, we can do some, maybe next time we do a demo together.
Yeah.
But I think again, like, big happy birthday to you. Big hats off for like continuing the show and making it an even bigger success.
We'll
And
try.
publicly, I want to say that you've become my favorite host when it comes to like tech events, right? Like, I think you've done an amazing job at the ARM Dev Summit with Brian Fuller. So like,
the ARM TV was
ARM TV was amazing.
Alessandro, man, if you were here, you would have most likely been my co-host there. Like, so like, Brian, awesome. I look forward to working with him again in the future. The whole situation there was crazy. We got to talk about it separately offline about this. There was like 26 people, 4 cameras, teleprompters everywhere. It was like just a huge production. It was crazy experience. I don't know. Like, when I first volunteered or when I was pushing for it, I was like, imposter syndrome setting in. I was like, oh no, like, can I really do this? Like, can I handle this? And then you get on the set and you're doing all these dry runs and practicing for like days in advance. And I'm like, oh no, I can't do this. And then it happens and you're like, oh, okay. Once you get through it, it starts kind of panning out. But I guess, yeah, interesting. Cool. So
can I do my shameless plug?
Please, yes.
Okay, let me, one last thing. So this is something really cool. We're doing a survey with Hackster, Harvard, Arduino, and Raspberry Pi together. And this is a survey to not just hear what you're doing, but also I kind of try to figure out, like, what challenges are you having that we can together, again, as an ecosystem, help you to solve, right? Like, what are things that we could do better? What are new resources? What are new education courses? What are new, like, tool challenges that you have that we can address, right? So really go check this out. If you can take the time and fill it out, you also have a chance to win some prizes. So, if that kind of helps. But I think, again, we're doing it for the better good, and hopefully we'll get some interesting results, and we'll share the results with everyone. So, like, we're not, we're going to make this together with the partner, with everyone else. We'll be sharing the results publicly next in January. It's opening today and it will close in at the end of the month. So don't leave it until Christmas, because then you won't be doing it anymore. So do it now.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, go fill out those surveys. It's interesting, and it's very nice of Edge Impulse to take the initiative to take the survey, but then also offer, to share the results with the public. So that's cool. It's not just like some survey where the data just is yours and you're just going to be like, I'm going to take this data and run. Very cool.
Yeah, and it's Hackster's. Hackster's running it, so we all trust Hackster. We all love Hackster.
Hackster's amazing. Love them. Yeah. Hi, Jessica. All right. Okay. Alessandro, once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us and being here, spending this hour talking to us about where you've been and this journey that you've been going through for the last 7-8 months. And thank you very much for the birthday wishes. And, that being said, all of you in the chat that have joined, that are here still and that have joined throughout the hour and watching on demand, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much for the birthday wishes. I was asked, hey, am I going to take the day off? And I said, no, this is what I want to do. So it's been great hanging out with you all.
I did have one request, but I don't know if we can do it.
What's up?
I wanted to have Rachel join in and do like a happy birthday together to you.
No, you don't have to sing. Rachel will join in one day. You'll get to see the wizard behind the curtain, but it has to be at her own discretion. We have to let her decide on her own. One day she's just gonna pop in out of nowhere, and it's gonna be a super pleasant surprise, and she'll join us for a call. But we'll save that for another day, Alessandro.
It's late now.
It's late.
But yeah, no. Thank you for everything, and thank you, Rachel, for being in the background and being awesome as usual. And Robert, amazing. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
All right. Well, everyone, that's it. Next week, let me pull up the agenda here. We're going to go through it real quick. Next week, we are joined by Dara Graylish, one of our ARM innovators who is the founder or co-founder of 56K Cloud. Now, he'll be talking to us because he will be attending AWS reInvent. So we actually will have him cover all of the cool highlights from his perspective on AWS reInvent. I'll be covering some of the cool announcements that were taken care of during that time as well. And then the following week, we'll be talking about practical software. Oh my gosh, I'm doing the wrong thing here. We'll be talking about AWS IoT, and that's also going to be a very interesting one, also addressing more of the announcements that were focused on the IoT space. So we have 2 episodes coming up in the next 2 weeks that are going to address AWS, the AWS reInvent event. And it'll be fun. So join us. I'm done. I'm ready to go.
I'll be joining.
Okay, cool. Alessandro will be joining as well. So stay tuned. We have 2 weeks coming up about AWS. There was a lot of stuff that happened at reInvent. So there's going to be a lot.
I want a summary. I need a summary, so I'll be joining.
You'll get 2 good summaries in the next 2 weeks. All right, Alessandro. Well, thank you so much, everyone watching. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. UTC Thursday. Take it easy. Bye.